Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast on HTML and CSS. I'm Dimka, and this is Durant, and we're course managers here at Udacity. And today we're going to be talking about some CSS things. The way CSS works is you have a selector, for example, .targets classes, and then a styling, and then you have styling that goes into the curly brackets. Right. So, for example, I have this really simple HTML, and as you can see, it's just a bunch of boxes, right? And then I've linked here to my style sheet, which is called style.css. And then, for example, if I wanted to target all the class box ones, I can do this via this notation. So dot box, select all the class box. And then inside, I have property, color, value, and so background color gray, and then 10 pixels margin to the bottle, and mean height of 50 pixels. And then, as you can see, all of my divs are defined as having class box, and then each one also has an additional class, box 1, box 2, box 3, right? And so over here, when you go like into the separate box 1, box 2, and box 3, I actually overwrite the background color property. So I gave each one a different background color. And then if we open this in the browser, right, so this is how it looks like, right? They all have different colors. They all have like the same in height of 50 pixels and then 10 pixels in between them. The box model is something that you have probably seen, but just a quick recap. So all elements are boxes. If we go into the developer tools, you can select, for example, this. And you can see, oh, there we go. And you can see that this is really how it looks like, right? So there's, it's this box. We can change the padding here to, I don't know, 40 pixels. So you see how weird. This actually moved the text 40 pixels to the right.
Yeah, and the padding is inside.
So, right. So usually this is the content. Whatever you have inside the box could be text, images, another box, whatever. And then the padding comes right after that, and the border is actually after the padding. Right. So the border encompasses the content and the padding. And then after the border, there's the margin. So if we, for example, so this is set to 10, why not set it to 40 as well? And you see, everybody else just like moved down to accommodate this like 40 pixels padding. So yeah, so the box model, pretty cool. Box elements versus block elements versus inline elements. And so divs, H1s, most of what you can think of, those are all block elements. There are a couple of inline elements, I think mostly tags such as bold, like making your text bold and things like that. Yeah. But
block elements, right, they're stacked vertically, and inline elements are kind of in the same line. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So like block elements are sort of like they take all the space that they can take in line horizontally, but as little space as they can take vertically. So for example, in the CSS code that I show you, all the boxes had min height of 50 pixels. And if we take that min height away, so you see in here min height 50 pixels, right? Say for this box. And if I take that away, whoops, all the boxes disappeared. The only one that remained is this one because it has content in it. When we give the min height back, they go back, right? Because these are block elements. Their default properties is be as wide as you can, but as short as you can. Right. So they're gonna either accommodate content if they have content, or if you have specified mean height for them, they're gonna accommodate that. If they don't have content and don't have mean height, they're just not gonna show. Let's change that to EM.
So it's big, huge. That's pretty massive. So maybe I want something much smaller, like I don't know, 3 EM or something.
Yeah, let's do that.
So yeah. So, yeah. 6. Yeah. So you can play with EM. It means if you change the font, then the default font, then this size will change accordingly.
Yeah.
You can put all the percentages, all the others that we talked about, VH, etc.
Yeah.
There's two kinds of centering, right? You either want to center your div or you want to center the things in the div, right?
Right. So to center your div, you can use the margin left, right, and margin right properties. And then, so if you set them to auto, that's gonna center the div. So auto, and then.
And you can see what happened. We set left to auto, and it's like it had its arm, and it pushed it all the way over to the left. That was Ben Jaffe's visual for that. And then when you set right, it's like you take the right arm and you the div pushed itself all the way across from the right side.
Right. So you're telling it be as much as you can to the left, but also be as much as you can to the right. That's sort of like two conflicting instructions. So what does it do? Stands right there in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way to center your element. To center the text or whatever, if you have text inside the element, then you can just use the text align property. And then you can use different things, but you can use center if you want the text to be centered. There you go. So now this is centered, and you can also do other things such as say nice and justified. Yeah. Another thing that you can use instead of using margin left and right, so let's get rid of these, is you can use margin auto. So this is actually margin 0 and auto. So this looks like it does the same thing, because what this does is it sets the top and bottom margins to 0, and then the left and right margins to auto. And the top and bottom margins are very different. Are very different from the left and right, just because because box elements behave differently they behave differently vertically versus horizontally. So you can actually center in the middle of the screen using something like margin top auto or margin bottom auto. That just won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's fine to do something like this. You say top and bottom are 0 and left and right are auto. It's the shortcut.
Yeah. If you float an element, they take your element and sort of cause it to make it look like as if it's like on a layer of its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really in a layer of its own, but it looks like as if it's on a layer of its own. And we should actually demonstrate that. So let's actually float this box, and then float it to the left.
Yeah. Whoa! What just happened here?
Exactly. So now it looks really weird because all the other boxes just jumped as if like they couldn't see this box at all. They just like jumped one up. This is because we are now saying, hey, this box 1, it becomes invisible to the other boxes, really. And it no longer takes maximal space available to it, so the other boxes just jump. Let's float another one. I want to now float this box, and then I want to float it left as well. Okay, now it disappeared completely, but it didn't disappear. It's actually hiding. Let's give it a different width. Look at the little. So now we've floated both the box 1 and box 2.
So what happened? Why did they go to where they are?
Well, essentially, when they're both floated, they're both like on a separate layer by themselves, kind of like you can think of it as like a layer 2, and they're aware of each other's existence, but they're not aware but other boxes are not aware of them, so other boxes do not see them, and it is as if those boxes are taking like zero space. And so essentially, when you unfloat them, you see how this goes back to being on the normal layer, and then but when you float it, it goes back up. And the other thing is that they're also not only they're aware of each other, but they're also like, this is a little bit weird because if they weren't floated, so let's unfloat them, and let's also unfloat this. They are actually underneath one another. They're not horizontally next to each other.
Because they're block elements, yeah.
Right, yeah. But then when you float them, that's no longer the case, right? When you float them, they sort of like lose that property of like wanting to take as much space as they can horizontally. It's sort of like they're no longer horizontally territorial.
Yeah, because we're telling it to float left. Now it's interesting, if we take box 2 and we float it right, let's see what happens there. If we take box 2 and we do float right, what do we think will happen? That's right, it jumps to the right side. So you can put things on both sides, they're both in this float layer and they're hiding. Now here's an interesting thing. What happens if we float box 1 to the right also? Let's see. Yeah, look, that's interesting. Notice how box 1 is to the right of the green box, box 2. And the reason for that is box 1 came before box 2. So it's kind of like there's a race. And the first one you say, okay, float right, and you get to box 1. And box 1 goes to the right. And then you go to box 2 and you say float right. But oh, box 1 is already there. So it goes as much to the right as possible.
This is sort of like the first element. And so when you float it to the right, it's the first one that's going to be on the right side. Mm-hmm. And when you float it to the left, it's going to be the first one, it's going to be on the left side. And then when you float elements that this is the second element. And so it's going to follow the first element.
Now, what if we have the common situation where we like these things floated, but we want everything else to come after it? Like, like we need to clear, there's actually something called clear fix. We need to fix this. We need to clear all our problems. We have to fix these floating issues.
So let's select the third box, right? And then let's give it a property. Let's clear.
Clear both, I think, actually. Left and right.
Let's clear both.
Yeah. Boom! Yay! Look at that.
So now you're essentially telling it, oh, you gotta beware. You gotta beware because there's actually elements floated on both sides, which clear both means on both sides. We floated those to the left, so we don't have to do. This is going to be the same thing now.
Or right, because now we're going to the right. Yeah.
So the clear right works for this because those two elements are like floated to the right. So you're telling the third box, watch out, you have elements floated to your right. So you want to be below them.
Yeah. So if you ever hear someone talking about clear fix, this is kind of the trick that you need. You can Google it. There's actually two things you need for clear fix. You need to clear left to right, and you also need to set the overflow for a weird case where you have nested divs. So when you look at the clear fix, you'll see it clears and it also sets an overflow. So if you ever forget, just Google it and add it. And even within Bootstrap, you sometimes have to be aware of these issues too. So you'll see references to clear fix in Bootstrap. So yeah. Cool.